Ah,
What a race.
how exciting, right?
What a race.
Hi, guys, welcome back to the Red Flag Radio YouTube channel. This is to talk about the post race for the Japanese Grand Prix, which was, as prefaced by the intro, very, very thrilling and very, very
No
eventful.
words. No words.
So,
It
briefly
was pure
before
fun.
briefly before we go into the few nitty gritties of the race. We're just going to put up the current the standings after the Japanese Grand Prix and the results of the Japanese Grand Prix right here. So feel free to pause the video if you want to have a thorough look at that. So, but starting with the podium holders for the Japanese Grand Prix, Max, Lando, and Oscar, we did sort of average out with the right predictions between you and me, and I think what was surprising, however, was that Max also won. Like we managed to predict that Max would take pole, but he delivered, man. He dragged that car to the finish line before anyone else. Feels bad
Well,
for McLaren though, as a fan, of course.
yeah, I get it, but I guess in his words, it was simply lovely. That, like, perfect pace management, perfect tire management, like, no one could stop him. And he was in that full zone, like we have seen from past 4 years. It's the Max Verstappen era that we are living in right now, and it's Max Verstappen masterclass that we go. I mean, it feels like eternity since he won for some reason.
Yeah, Austria
Because,
last year, I believe, was the last time he was on pole.
yeah, he was on pole in Austria, and I feel we needed to hear that Dutch national anthem after some time. It
Yeah.
was long awaited, but finally we got that. So, yeah, I'm happy considering we all know this Red Bull is not great and nowhere close to be, winning those races. And he was also surprised. We heard him. He was so excited, so happy when he got that pole position. Something which we don't hear quite often. So it was a welcome change and very excited to hear more radio moments. But can he deliver in every single racetrack with that car? I feel that won't happen. If they bring upgrades, then it's a total different story. But this car, man, it's not that great, especially to win those races. But Max Verstappen, another masterclass.
Yeah, and it does feel bad for Lando and Oscar because they also expected to see themselves winning, and they should have won. Ideally, in my opinion, I did feel like the McLaren was better suited to win on a long haul, which is a race distance compared to a qualifying lap. But apparently not. Apparently, they had to settle for the second and third podium steps, which is, I mean, it could be worse, I suppose. They did
Right.
get a huge haul of points for the constructors, but still.
I mean, it wasn't disastrous by any means. P2, P3 is, never bad. It
Hmm.
ask Ferrari. They would love to get that.
Yeah.
But I feel both drivers finished well. Again, it was something, they didn't get that P1
Hmm.
in qualifying. And I guess that's the reason why they couldn't overtake Max Verstappen. Because when he's at front, it's too tough to overtake him. And we rarely see those overtakes. But
So
yeah,
you're
P2,
saying that
P3.
Max getting pole broke McLaren's spirit a little bit?
I won't say that, but with the track conditions and everything, favored Max Verstappen or someone who is at pole. I feel if it
Mm.
was raining, maybe things would have been different, or maybe Max Verstappen would have gone with a bigger lead. That's a different story. But I feel there was no action, no drama wherever we wanted to see. It was just, people just waiting for that moment, and that moment never came for any driver. Like every driver was clean, and there were no game changing moments apart from that one spicy pit lane incident that we saw between Max and Lando. That was
Yeah,
the closest action we got in a
it,
way.
you're right. It was quite a bit of a snooze fest in that it made me feel like I was somehow watching Monaco, and that is really unfortunate for a track of Suzuka's caliber. But that incident between Lando and Max also, I feel, could have been avoided. As a fan of Lando, I think he should not have tried to pull the move at the pit exit. I think they had enough pace to cleanly exit and then go racing. But
I,
those are just my 2 cents on it. But I think that was, at least visually, it was very entertaining, but unnecessary in my opinion.
I think he was just impatient at that moment because I guess every driver is hungry, and when they see that opportunity in any way, they will jump towards that. Like that was, I think, their only chance at that moment. That's how I
Hmm.
felt because every driver was just holding that position really well. So I feel overtaking, like catching is one thing, overtaking is another. I feel there was there was no situation where Max Verstappen would have allowed an overtake unless there was some problem with the car or
Right.
if there was a mistake. So I felt that was a very ambitious try, but
Mm.
I felt like there was no chance that would have happened, and there was a higher probability that something worse could have happened for McLaren or for Lando Norris. But luckily, he survived. He was not happy at that moment, but he later realized that,
Hmm.
yeah, it was something that he should have avoided. But I think
Right.
it's fine. At least P2, P3, as you said, those crucial constructor points will definitely help them because other teams are fighting with either one drivers or they didn't get that many points. So I feel McLaren are doing, as a team, they are doing what they should do. But yeah, in driver standings, Lando
It's
lost
gonna hurt
some.
a bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. But still 1 point ahead of Max Verstappen. So
Yeah.
that's still
Silver
not that bad.
linings. Yeah.
Yeah,
However, I think given that the front end of the race was so boring, I think we need to give credit to the drivers that did put on quite a show. Namely Antonelli, youngest driver to ever lead a race, which is, I get it, people in front of him were pitting, so it was not really something exceptional, but still, it's a record and it's his. And also setting the fastest time during the Grand Prix.
true.
Those are very good accomplishments for a young driver like him, and he's yet again doing what he needs to do, which is work for Mercedes at this moment.
True. He was just behind Russell, and yeah, he led. As we discussed, that other drivers went to pits, and he got that gap to
Hmm.
push ahead, and he was pushing even after that pit stop, and he got that fastest lap. So if we were saying that the future of F1 isn't just bright, I feel it's
Yeah,
already here. So
quite right.
amazing performance by Kimi Antonelli as well as some other young guns like Ollie Bearman.
Oh yeah,
Once again, points with us.
that was a very nice thing which we got to see today, other than some of the other young drivers putting on a show, like we said. And I really like Ollie Bearman because he seems like a very calm person as well, but quite ferocious when needed. And it is amazing that he's one of the other rookie drivers, other than Antonelli, that's also putting in the work and bringing some points that are
True.
relevant enough for constructors every race.
True. And there's also one more young driver who wanted to put a show when there was no spotlight on him, and that was Isaac Hadjar. When
Right.
every spotlight was on Yuki Tsunoda or even Liam Lawson for that matter,
Mm.
he was silent, at least not during qualifying because he had
Yeah,
his issues with the seat belt. And but still, he got those crucial points, and Racing Bull will be happy that the points which they lost in Chinese Grand Prix, well, they didn't fully recover it, but some points are, that will definitely help them in this constructors
that's
championship
right.
battle.
Yeah.
So overall, these three young drivers were really impressive. All three got some points, and they should be happy with their performance. And the best thing about this race was, I feel every driver performed at that level where they didn't make any mistake. We saw some lockups at the
Mhm.
final turn, but it was a pretty neat race and something we fans don't enjoy much because neat races mean that less drama, less safety cars, so that spicy matters go down with that. So, but credit where it's due, they performed really well for their
Yeah,
team
but
as well as
the hallmark of a race being bland, so to speak, is that one of the best moments of the race or one of the worst moments of the race, depending on your perspective, was Yuki getting driver of the day, which is tragic because the highest uh, ever race finish in this season so far by a second driver in Red Bull is 12th, which is Yuki today.
Yay!
Those are some depressing stats. He did perform better than Liam, if that was the point he was trying to prove, and he was almost in the points. But then that sounds like making excuses for him. And the bottom line is, I think we all judged Checo too soon. I think now it has been proven amply that this Red Bull is simply not a good car.
And in all honesty, Tsunoda did get some wings so that he could drive that car without any issues. But for that track, I feel that setup was never destined to work for that matter. But at least he was able to finish. But yeah, no points to show. Maybe
Yeah.
that driver of the day will cheer him slightly, but I feel when he can match Verstappen and get some more points, I feel that will cheer him up more. But that's all right. That's his first race. At least it was clean for that matter. He tried, but maybe a weekend to forget and just he can focus straight away on Bahrain Grand Prix from here, I feel.
Yeah, and speaking of Bahrain Grand Prix, I think Ferrari is down to get an upgrade package, if I'm not mistaken. And
Yeah,
they
they
did
are.
well today, but they should be doing even better with that upgrade package. What do you think about that? Does it help or does it fire back like Aston Martin?
Uh don't go there. See, I feel with the floor upgrade, that should definitely help them. Again, once we start seeing those performance in first practice session and second practice session, we will get a better picture. And if Ferrari can, resolve their internal mishaps and everything and go with the right strategy and take some right decisions, I feel they can be in that mix, especially
Hmm.
with McLaren and Max Verstappen, because Bahrain is a track where you can overtake, where you can fight hard. And we have seen historically that Ferrari are decent on that track. We have seen in 2022 when they got when Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc were at the top, although Max Verstappen DNF'd in that race, but
Mhm.
they usually perform well in Bahrain and they have the data of testing as well, not to forget that. So
Right.
I feel they should be fine there, and it's very exciting to see how that upgrade works because we really want to see them at front. Even
Yeah.
though Charles Leclerc got a decent position, and in all honesty, Hamilton was minding his own race after initial fight with Hadjar. So I think they will prefer to be at front, and
Yeah.
hopefully that upgrade can push them towards McLaren. That would be amazing to watch. Two
Mhm.
teams with Verstappen fighting for that P1. What else do we need?
Yeah, and speaking of Bahrain, I think let's assume that everything goes well in the race and there are no shenanigans. Do we think we get a repeat telecast of Sainz's magic during testing on this track? Because I think now it's high time for him to back some points and show us that he does understand the car. Maybe this is the race that he needs to spark that back in him. Since, as you mentioned, there is a lot of testing data from Bahrain for all the teams available, and that's why I think Sainz should do well as well, and he is supposed to now. That's his
True.
responsibility, right? So I think other than Albon being the hero for Williams right now, Sainz also starts to contribute from Bahrain, is what I hope and what I believe will happen.
True. I think I can agree on that because I feel he had a much better race. He was more confident. I Shame that he couldn't make those moves because the track didn't allow him, in all honesty. Even on soft tires, he
Hmm.
couldn't do much. But his pace was decent compared to other drivers, and I feel he will be more confident and he will understand this car now in a much better way. And as you shared that Bahrain testing was really good for them. So hopefully he can replicate that in this race as well. So I feel pairing Grand Prix should be decent for Williams as a whole if something doesn't go wrong for them. And hopefully Sainz will
Yeah,
be there with Albon at least.
right, right. Another team, I think, I hope this is just unfortunate, but Aston Martin today, man, the first race Alonso finishes, the other driver is dead last.
Yeah, it's fine. See, Suzuka traditionally never helped Aston Martin except in 2022 when Vettel really fought hard with Alonso
Hmm.
when he was driving for Aston Martin.
Hmm.
But uh, yeah, there were some issues. So Lance Stroll made that mistake in qualifying because of which he started P20,
Yeah,
and yeah, there was no pace for him. But Alonso would be happy he was P11, very close to points. If there was
yeah,
one driver who would have made mistake, then he was in the points. But at least he saw the checkered flag. Shame
yeah,
that all 20 drivers finished in this race. So which is why uh, there was no area where he could have maximized even more and to get those points, because I
right.
feel top 10 were there. They started in top 10 and they finished in top 10, so I
Yeah,
feel damage limitation there, but no
and
points to show.
exactly. But then I think this is a great confidence booster for Alonso, and this probably shows him that he doesn't have to be patient for very long, because at least he was very close to the points, as you mentioned, which means on a track like Bahrain, he might see some action and he might see some points as well, and that should cheer him up. And
I hope so.
yeah,
I
I
really
I
do.
hope so too. And it would be very nice to see him fight for the more spicy points as well, say P4, P5. I know it's a little bit of a stretch, but it would
Too
be nice if that
ambitious.
happens.
Too ambitious. Even I don't expect that at the moment. But he did fought with Gasly initially, so
Right.
and he was very confident at that time. I mean, he's Alonso. He always fights hard. So it was amazing. But yeah, hopefully he will be in points, and if Lance Stroll can join him and we can get some double points, perfect.
That's what we hope
That's
and
all I
pray
can
for,
ask
I
for.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then, so
But
speaking of Bahrain, then what do we think happens then on a larger scale, on the big picture side? Do we think it's going to be a fight between Mercedes engines only, which is McLaren and Mercedes, or do we think Max also gets in on the action, given that, again, as we saw in testing, the Red Bull did not seem comfortable?
true. I feel there will be more action for starter compared to Japanese Grand Prix, where every driver can fight. We will get more overtakes, more strategy gambles, depending on how tire wear will be. So I feel we will get some drama. Hopefully, as a Formula One fan, we
Hmm.
deserve more drama, considering we saw Chinese Grand Prix and Japanese Grand Prix, which were not that great as a show. So hopefully, we will get more drama, and I feel Ferrari will be there. I'm counting on you guys, man. You have to perform in this race. And that's how I feel they will. So I feel Ferrari will be there with McLaren's as well as Mercedes and even Verstappen. You can never count out Verstappen. That's how I feel.
Hmm.
So let's see. Hopefully, we will get more drama. What do you think? McLaren boys will feel the pressure now?
I don't think so, actually. I think compared to Japanese Grand Prix, I had my pessimistic prediction about McLaren boys not getting pole either. So, but
Hmm.
then that being said, I think for Bahrain, we can be a lot more confident. And I think the McLaren boys do pull the rabbit out of the hat, and that will be amazing because then we get to fight. Then we get to see the top four teams fight as advertised since the beginning of the season. We wanted to see McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari all fighting. Granted, Red Bull will be represented by only one driver most likely. It's still going to be a fun show, and as you said, given the tire changes, tire compound changes as well, and the tire degradation being affected by that as a result, we think, I think specifically that, as you said, the strategic gamble is the thing that will make the race the most spicy, and that will enable some overtakes as well, but just not directly through dogfighting. And I think that will be very interesting to see.
Well, let's hope for the best because we are in this triple header and the next race is Bahrain Grand Prix, so it should be fun.
Hmm.
But I guess that's a wrap on Japan. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. Drop your thoughts on the race below. Who impressed you most and who needs to step it up before Bahrain? Do you agree Yuki Tsunoda should have got that Driver of the Day award or someone else? But that's all from Japan. See you in the next one. Goodbye.
Thanks, guys.